I'm Andrea Isabel Lucas, founder of Bar and Soul and author of Own It All. The Own It All podcast is all about how to stop waiting for change and start creating it. I interview inspiring folks and leading thinkers who share tips on how to make a difference in your life and the world around us. Listen in each week to harness your power, maximize your time, manage boundaries, rock your career, health, relationships, and be an ally for causes that matter. We'll help accelerate all you're capable of doing with practical advice, stories, and strategies. Get ready to own it all because your life belongs to you. Hi, Andrea here, and welcome back to the Own It All podcast. Today, I am so freaking excited to have Ash Ambirge with me. Ash was one of the interviewees in my book, if you'll remember. Gosh, I'm so excited to introduce you guys to Ash. She is an internet entrepreneur, creative writer, speaker, and advocate for women being brave and doing disobedient things with their careers and their lives. Her voice has been called the most memorable on the internet, original in a world with too little of it, not safe for work at all, and also really kind of sweary, which is definitely her favorite description and very apt. She's the founder of the Middle Finger Project, which is both the name of her Hallmark lifestyle blog as well as the title of her first book, which is going to be fresh out. And she splits her time between Philadelphia, PA, and traveling the world. You can learn more about her, of course, at themiddlefingerproject.org. Welcome, Ash.
I'm so excited. You just nailed the pronunciation of my last name like a champion. Hi.
Like a true stalker fan.
Yes. And then as soon as you were reading my bio, I was like, gosh, I gotta take speaker out of there. I'm not like speaking around the world right now. And it's not something I want to do. And I'm like, I should really take that out. Yeah.
Yeah. Well,
I'm a writer now.
People know that they can hire you. And if they want to throw a bunch of money at you, at least you've told them that's an option.
Yes, hundreds of thousands of dollars, please. Hi, great to be here.
Oh my God. I'm so excited to have you. And we actually did like a complete clusterfuck interview do you remember when we had all that tech bullshit going on during the launch of my book? We were like, we're going to do an Instagram live together. And it was like the day that Instagram shit the bed completely. And like,
that was
it was a total fail. Yeah. Like, so we ended up on Zoom and recording that and somehow like reposting it and sharing it later. But the great thing was it was like a kind of a spectacular mess, but it came out so fun, so awesome. And, people really enjoyed it. So I'm excited that we get to chat again.
That was the day. And Zoom, I'm glad we recorded it on Zoom anyway, because then we could actually, share it around and have a permanent record of it.
Exactly. Yeah, that was
dun, dun, dun.
That was great. So you wrote a book. I have an advanced copy. By the time this comes out, your book will be out. And I am loving it, of course. And I would just love to know, you're a writer, but like what prompted you to write this book? Like, how did you decide what it was that you needed to say and what people needed to hear?
Well, bottom line, this is a book for anyone who is thinking that they really want to do something different with their work and their life. But the question is what? They're sitting in there. They're like, God, I'm not happy with this. I feel really stuck, but I don't know what else I want to do. And the reason why I wanted to write this book the way I did, it's part, I guess you could categorize it as self-help. It's part self-help, but really also part memoir, part entertainment. Because in working with many, many thousands of women around the world on this topic, it's interesting because we can talk about freelancing all day long till we're blue in the face. Mm-hmm. I can teach you how to write a killer proposal that gets 3 times more the amount of money. We can talk about getting on sales calls and all the tactical stuff that happens when you just decide to maybe leave your position and try to sell your ideas to someone else. But the thing that comes up over and over, time and time again, for most women is not actually the tactical stuff. It's the mental and the emotional and the feelings of imposter syndrome and just the whole mental fuckery piece that happens. So this book is a deep dive into that. And it's based on my own experiences and all of the times I've fucked up and, reasons why that's happened. And all of it has been a lot of the internal dialogue and narrative that's going on in your head when you're trying to make these big moves.
Yes, it's essentially mindset, although I think that's a little I don't know, overused of a word.
That's the word, yes.
But I think there's a lot of similarity between your message and mine in terms of just giving yourself permission and just taking ownership of your life and being willing to be unconventional and not waiting for somebody to tell you that it's okay to do that. But also, like, if the reader needs to hear that it's okay to do that, it's like, okay, I'm here to say it's okay. You can do that.
Yeah, no, yes. Our message is super similar. That's why we're friends.
Mhm.
That's why when you were like, I'm writing a book called Own It All, I was like, yes, I love it. Own it all. Stop waiting for someone else to pick you. Like, get out there and pick yourself, man. There's so much opportunity to do this in today's world, and we're just kind of still looking for a job instead.
Yeah. So what is your number one piece of advice for people who are finding that their work no longer inspires them?
Go outside. Go outside. Most of us are sitting on our sofas, right? Like feeling so terribly guilty about the fact that, we haven't found our passions and what's wrong with us and shouldn't we
Mm,
just suck it up and be grateful for what we've got? But A, being grateful for what you've got is definitely some of the world's worst advice.
yeah.
And B, you just can't find your passions in your living room, girl. You cannot think your way out of this one.
Mm,
You can only do your way out of it. So, I like to think of this as approaching this the same way that you would approach any new learning experience. You would go out and you would get some actual experience, except now, the thing you're getting experience in is, yourself, what you like and what you don't like and what you do want to do with your life. Like run a grand experiment. And you know what? If you try something and it doesn't work out, great. Next.
mm.
If you didn't like it, next. This has nothing to do with you being flighty or undependable or wishy-washy. It's the exact opposite. This means that you are taking your life more seriously than most.
So do you think a lot of people stay stuck on the couch or stay stuck in their heads because they think they just have to figure out the whole thing before they can even get started?
Yes, 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 of course. So many of us are like, okay, I need a plan.
Mhm.
And I'm like, nope, no, operate without a plan.
Mm,
In, in my experience, I'm not a planner. So I think this will resonate with people who aren't planners.
mm,
I advise you to just start anywhere. I don't care where it is. It should not be at the beginning. It should just be anywhere that feels good for you right now. Because if you worry about making this perfect plan, a couple of things happen. Number one, you put so much pressure on yourself to have the perfect plan, and then you never actually do the thing because you're still planning
mhm.
to do the thing.
Yes.
And then number two, all right, well, I forget number two. There was going to be a number two. I forget number two. But you have to be able to just start something. The planning piece. Oh, I know what number two was. It's just that, listen, like even if you do get it perfect, you're still going to change something the very next week anyway. You're going to be tweaking it and twinkling with it and like iterating the entire time.
Mhm.
So
Yes.
plan on iterating, and that's okay. Just start anywhere.
Mm. So, like, I love what you just said about, yeah, being grateful for what you have. Like, that is something that I think, as a very entrepreneurial person, I think sometimes people don't get about me, or I don't know, or like that it's wrong to not be just grateful for what you have, but to always be kind of thinking about the next thing. And I can definitely appreciate not spending your entire life in the future and always like, on to the next and on to the next. But I kind of don't know how to live any other way. Like yeah, I don't know. Something about just stopping and being grateful for what I have just feels like stagnant. Like like I need to be in momentum constantly. And I think I don't know, it's just something about my personality, but I do feel somewhat like I think shamed is a little too strong of a word, but sometimes I do feel a little bit like borderline shamed. Like, why do you always have to be, you know, on to bigger and better things? Like, do you ever stop to appreciate what you have? And I know that intellectually that I'm sure is very important to do, but that is not something I spend a lot of time doing.
I love that that's your approach on it. And I think the idea of being grateful for what you've got originated in a different place. It originated somewhere where it's like, okay, well, you know what? Like look around you. You know, life is actually pretty darn good when you
Mm.
look at it when you're kind of feeling sorry for yourself.
Yeah.
But I think that that statement has been extrapolated to then apply to different contexts where you're not necessarily feeling sorry for yourself, but now you're in a situation where you really should change something,
Mm.
but you've got kind of the dream zappers and the dream zapper in
Yes.
your own mind holding you back and telling you, well, you know what? Work is supposed to be hard. That's
Yeah.
why they call it work. So
Mhm.
suck it up. Welcome to the real world.
Yep.
And we believe other people. So when people tell us that, gosh, my assistant is a former high school teacher, and her problem was that she actually had it pretty good. It's like, I'm living a decent life, I'm making a decent salary, and everyone would remind her, you'd be crazy to leave that job. You get summers off, you get out early, you have great benefits. So the guilt would eat
Yes.
her alive because they were taking that same statement, you should be grateful for what you've got, and applying it to a situation where it maybe shouldn't apply.
Mhm.
And that's where I think that advice gets dangerous when we settle instead of charging forward with something that we absolutely should.
Exactly, and I think guilt is a great word for it, and exactly, and it's not like I don't appreciate what I have or what I've created or, I just I know that I have so much more to contribute, and I'm, like, just getting started, and it like, what's manifested so far does not match the vision that I have in my head yet, and it's like, "But I'm not finished." You don't even know, like, this is just the beginning, you know?
Yeah, well, I think it's too true to examine the difference between being grateful and being gratified. Those
Mm.
are two different things. Like, you can be grateful for what you have built and you appreciate it, but is it gratifying you in the same way that it once did? And that's where I think the dichotomy comes through, where it's like, okay, well, I do want something more. I'm grateful for what I
Mhm.
built, but I still want something more because I want to feel fulfilled. Right?
Yeah, and I wonder if, I wonder if that is threatening for some people, like, that you want more or that you're going for more. Like, sometimes people might feel like, "Slow down," like
Yes.
you're doing too much or I don't know, it's
You're making me look bad.
making me look bad. Exactly.
That one. I mean, yeah, coming from a small town,
Mhm.
yeah, that resonates with me a lot. I was very scared in the beginning to talk about what I wanted to do because doing so felt like a slight to other
Mm.
people, and I was aware of that. It was a little bit like saying, hey, like, by challenging this reality, I'm challenging your decisions too.
Yeah.
And that's a very difficult thing to do. And people do, whether consciously or not, they do take it that way. And so then you get into the dream zapper mode of like, well, who does she think she is?
Mm.
And this is just another one of her big ideas. And those are the kinds of comments that keep women down.
As if there wasn't enough keeping women down.
I know, right? As if there wasn't enough. Let's just pile this shit on the top.
Right? So actually, can I ask you, I don't know if you're a RuPaul fan. I'm, like, obsessed with RuPaul, and this is, like, one of his pieces of, like, sage wisdom that he's always saying is that, like, where you're going, not everybody is going to be able to come with you. Like, the people from your
Ooh.
past won't all be able to support that or to relate to you anymore, and, like, you're going to have to be willing to leave some people behind to go where you really wanna go. Like, he says that a lot, and every time I'm like, "But no, not really," but, like, it's in his book, he's, like, always saying it to, like, the girls on Drag Race, like, it's really a big piece of life advice that seems to have been true for him. Have you found that to be true, or has it been kind of organic because you're such like a world traveler that people do kind of come and go?
I got goosebumps as soon as you said that. I've
Mm.
never heard that before, but as soon as you said it, I was like, nausea. Yes. I will say, I will say that I think, in some ways, the opposite has been true for me. I
Mm.
think that I am very much like, J Lo, Jenny from the block.
Mhm.
because I grew up right in this like rural trailer park with a mom who had this severe social anxiety. She hardly could leave the house. We were on governmental assistance. She passed away when I was 21. So, as a function of that, I've had a connection to my small town in a different kind of way because
Mm.
it's the only thing that ever feels like home anymore, really. So
Mm.
I do and have made a concerted effort to visit often, and I keep up with my old friends from there, and I do it because I love them
Mhm.
despite the fact that there is a giant gorge between, who I was once and who I am now. And so I mean, when I think about it from that perspective, it's like I don't think that I've had to leave people behind because I've chosen deliberately not to. I think I'm strong enough in my own convictions and I know myself well enough to feel good about the decisions I'm making and what I'm doing with my life. I don't need their approval per se.
Mhm.
I like having them in my life, but I don't need their permission.
Mhm.
But the opposite has been true in many ways where I am a threat to some people and not just like in my hometown, like people that I've met over the years
Mhm.
and what I represent now as this woman who has a certain amount of personal freedom and adventure and excitement and living this unconventional life. I think sometimes people don't want to hear that, and they don't want to ever question their own decisions to, stay home or choose a different path. And so they end up feeling judged by me, and that is never,
Mm.
ever, ever something I want or have ever
Yeah.
intended. So for me, I think some of the people in my life have had to leave me behind because they're not
Mhm.
able to reconcile that.
Mm. Yeah. I could see how that would be the case, and I can relate to that in a sense. It is funny how it's like, the book, The Four Agreements, don't take anything personally. Like,
Mhm.
everyone takes everything personally. So, like, your decisions ultimately can feel like almost like a personal, indictment on them, even when there's just no judgment whatsoever. I think even like a lot of times I meet people and when they hear that I own fitness and yoga studios, they start apologizing to me and giving me all the excuses why they don't go to yoga. And I'm like, I literally don't care if you go to yoga at all. I wasn't going to ask and I don't care. And like, I'm not judging you and it's totally fine. And you don't even have to go to yoga ever. I'm cool with that too. But it is funny how, yeah, everybody sort of internalizes and measures that against like, well, what does that mean about me?
Oh
When
gosh,
they're
yeah.
getting to know others.
That's such a good
Yeah.
example. Yeah, you're such a
Mm.
good example. It just yeah, it makes it so much more tangible. I feel like I've had instances where, you know, people have gotten defensive and like, "Well, listen, I would way prefer my life over yours. I don't want to travel the world." And it's like, "All right, good. I'm glad."
Cool.
But it's comes out of left field like it's a very difficult thing to do, which is why I think the internet community is so important because you are able to find and locate other people who are doing similar things and have similar ideas as you to where you're at with your life right now, and you don't have that dynamic. And it's just the
Mm,
most supportive, encouraging thing. You don't have the dream zappers that way.
mm,
So important.
right. So, can we talk about how radical self-reliance comes from following your most dangerous ideas?
Yes. Yes, 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 yes. Um, Something I researched a bit when I was in the early stages of starting to ask some questions, like coming out of a trailer park, I was so fascinated with this topic of what it meant to live a good life and do work that you're proud of. I never
Mhm.
saw my mom model that for me, and it became a bit of an obsession. And so as I was doing that research and even, writing this book, one of the things that really jumped out at me was the difference between happiness and meaningfulness. And it turns
Mm,
out that the studies show that happiness is about getting what you want. So, okay, like, great, we've all got a salary, we've got a roof over our heads. Like, that's the stuff we're supposed to be grateful for. But
mhm,
then meaningfulness is about getting what you want and also expressing and defining yourself while you do it.
Mm.
That for me was the thing that really made me leave corporate America and begin, this other journey in entrepreneurship, because I had such a desire to express and define myself with creativity and originality. So I say that because a lot of times we make decisions based on what we think makes sense. So, okay, like this thing makes sense. I have a background in engineering, so I'm going to start consulting in that, or, whatever. Um, but something can make sense and still make you miserable. So,
Mm.
what I encourage is for you to stop thinking about what makes sense. And this is where the dangerous ideas comes into play, and start thinking about where you can contribute in a way that does allow you to express and define yourself. And try to
Mm.
look at your decision making process through that lens as an exercise. And that to me is a dangerous idea, because there's no certainty, there's no insurance policy. Maybe you don't have a wealth of experience in that area. But if it's what you want to do and you're feeling that little anarchy inside of you, then I
Mm.
absolutely think you should march towards that with a dagger in your hand, my friend.
Mm. What do you think is a good question that people could ask themselves if they're like, I don't even know if I have any dangerous ideas?
This is where it comes back into play when you've got that person who's sitting on their sofa and they're like, but I don't have any passions. I don't know what I want to do. And this is so hard for all of us, because we really think that we're defective if we don't have this stuff in place. But I always use the example that, listen, if you went to a restaurant and you tried the duck nards, and turns out you think that duck nards are disgusting, are you going to internalize that and be like, oh my God, something is wrong with me? I don't like duck balls. I mean, what is wrong with me? No, like, you're not going to do that. You're not going to blame this on yourself. You're going to get up and go to a different restaurant. You're going to order something different. And
Mm.
so the same applies for life and your ideas. It's not a function of you. It's a function of you not having tried enough things. And it is a function of a lack of life experience. Hard
Mm.
thing for people to swallow. But if you've spent the last 10 years of your life coming and going from an office every day, doing the same exact damn job for 10 hours a day, how would you have other life experience? How would you know? You can't. So I think if you don't have any dangerous ideas, it's not because you're defective. It's simply because you're not living enough, and you need to make it a priority to go outside.
Mm. Awesome. That makes so much sense. And it seems like you've done that a lot for yourself through travel. I mean, you've definitely lived in many different countries and been to God knows how many. Did you always know that you were passionate about travel, or is that something you just kind of discovered?
Oh God, no. When I know, I was working in the ice cream stand in rural Pennsylvania, as I did for 8 years of my life in school. And this girl named Lori Page, who was a couple years older than me, had gone off to college and did a semester in Mexico. And she came back and she came to get an ice cream cone. And I was like, Lori, hey, like, say something to me in Spanish.
Mhm.
And she did. And it was so elegant. And everything about it was just like fascinating. Her stories of these Latin lovers. And I was like, okay, that is what I'm studying in school. Like that.
Mm.
And so,
That's
no,
awesome.
I didn't, but I had this inkling that I wouldn't be better off if I stayed in one corner of the earth for the rest of my life. And so I did go to school, and that was the thing I picked. I picked Spanish to study because I didn't know what I wanted to do. And as a
Mhm.
function of that, I understood that if I wanted to become fluent, I needed to also study abroad. And I had gotten a scholarship from the founder of Monster.com to go to school, because he was an entrepreneur who had grown up also in rural Pennsylvania. When he made it big with his bazillions,
Mm.
decided he wanted to give back. So he came to the poorest county in PA and was looking for someone who had a combination of financial need and entrepreneurial spirit. So because I was able to get that scholarship, I pitched Andy McKelvey. I made a whole proposal for him, asking him to pay for my study abroad. And that's what happened. And that's when I first went. And that's when I was like, oh my God. And I saw so many things and so many people. And I was fascinated with how we're all so different, but really we're actually the same.
Mm.
And I fell in love with travel from that very moment. And that was the first time I went to Costa Rica. And I've never stopped traveling since.
Wow. And did you know that you were entrepreneurial from that young an age?
No, I totally thought I was making it up and it was a total sham. And I mean, I just had to give it a try anyway. And, I mean, in retrospect, I actually think I was quite entrepreneurial, but I didn't see myself as that at the time. I had to look up the word.
Mm.
I didn't know what that meant. But yeah, I had done a lot. I had done a lot of things. And I remember in the interview in person, he sat in the far back corner in this room at Penn State, and some other woman interviewed me kind of under the light at a desk, closer to the door. And it was the creepiest thing ever. And then she asked me, here's the bottom line. If we don't give you the scholarship, are you still going to go to college? And that's a hard question to answer.
Yeah.
And no, I ended up saying yes, that I would find a way. But as I left the room, I burst out in tears. I started crying because I was just
Yeah.
like overwhelmed with emotion. And I think I'm not going to get it. And now what am I going to do?
Yeah, that first of all sounds like a really creepy way to conduct that interview. And second of all, that was kind of a bomb to leave you with to have to sit with that question for yourself.
Yeah, it was a great question. It was a
Mm,
really great question. But I didn't,
mm,
I didn't know I was an entrepreneur at the time, but I had brought, everyone was asked to bring one object that demonstrated their entrepreneurial spirit. Like, okay, God, what's the object gonna be?
oh my God, what did you bring?
I ended up going to AC Moore and I got one of these boxes, just a plain cardboard box that shaped it as a hexagon. And
Hmm.
then it has all the other smaller boxes inside of it. And I went and I took and I scanned kind of like all of the basic bitch awards that I had gotten, accomplishments. I mean, stupid shit like captain of the volleyball team and high honors. And I was president of student council and president of everything. And so then I took each one of those, scanned it, and then made it very small. And then I pasted it onto the side of the hexagon box. And I went to the interview, started showing them and kind of walking them through each of these things. And then I would take out one box after the other and it would get more and more important. And
Mm,
then, at the end, I was kind of like, but none of that really matters because the thing that makes me an entrepreneur is not, none of those things. It's actually this. And then I pulled out this like little red stuffed, like it was a heart.
mm. Oh,
So cheesy, but it worked.
wow.
Yeah. And none of that makes me an entrepreneur.
Wow. But I wonder how much that planted the seed for you to recognize that in yourself, sooner.
I think what it was is, I mean, that was I mean, other people were like bringing their oboe into the interviews, like, random stuff, like a hat they made or something. But I think it was a great example of using my creativity to stand out. And that has been the key to my entrepreneurship the entire time. Everything that I've done has been kind of wacky and unconventional.
Mm.
So I think I'm an entrepreneur in a different way. I'm not running around starting Fortune 500 companies, but I'm very entrepreneurial with my ideas.
Oh my God. Yes. Hey, it's Andrea again. Can I help give you the courage to own your life? Want to redirect your time towards the goals and experiences that really matter? Get your copy of my book, Own It All, on Amazon. Part manifesto, workbook, and expert interview collection. Then, let's connect on Instagram, Facebook, or Twitter and continue the conversation. Find out more at AndreaIsabelLucas.com. And I was so surprised when you moved back to the States. I was so used to thinking of you as this globe-trotting character. So, what brought you back to Philly?
Well, I'm not here for real.
Okay, we're just pretending. Okay.
I wanted to invest in a piece of property here because Philadelphia is just awesome. It's
Mm.
really on the rise right now, and I know that with its proximity to New York and DC, I couldn't go wrong. So I wanted a place. I wanted a place here for an investment primarily. I want to let it be here. I want to rent it out when I'm not here. But I also wanted that home base that I haven't had in so long. It feels nice, like a warm, cuddly blanket.
Mm. Mhm.
And so, yeah, so we purchased the property and it's almost furnished. We still have to do some renovations with the kitchen and the bathroom. But then, I mean, it's been great right now doing a book launch because I'm here in New York and they're sending me boxes and boxes of books and like stickers and things that I could have never done this from abroad.
Mm.
So yeah, but I think after the book launch, I'm heading back to Costa Rica to be with Carlos for a while, and then in the summer we tend to do Europe, so I'm excited about that. But this will be here now, and we can actually do nice little layovers from Philly to Europe or wherever.
That's really cool. Will you rent it out or will you leave it available for you to use?
Both.
Yeah.
I've been back and forth between do I want to rent it out as a really fun creative space that has all of the really cool equipment that you would need if you need to go produce a podcast or if you want to do a video series and you need lighting and cameras and equipment and mics and whatever and just a quiet cute space, or if I want to do what everyone else is kind of doing here, the neighbors downstairs rent to these guys, or not guys, people who are here because the hospital system is so huge in Philadelphia.
Oh,
So they come to do whatever, like the residency, and they maybe are here for 3 months or 6 months, but they're not going to pack up their life and bring all their furniture, but they still need a furnished place to stay.
makes
So
sense.
yeah, we're just going to play with it. I mean, I wanted it as kind of another income stream and just something to have.
Cool. Awesome.
Yeah.
What the hell is the hot dog theory?
I think this is somehow going to end up on my tombstone, like founder of the hot dog theory of money. Can you imagine? um, People have been asking me a lot about this on the podcast. I think that's indicative that it's a good name.
Mm-hmm.
So the hot dog theory of money goes to the heart of women's relationship with money. I think we have a difficult one because we're so used to being women and our role is to give and give and oh, she's so selfless and she gave so much to her kids and we have a really hard time taking, right? Don't we? Just in general, taking.
Yeah.
So the same applies to money. We have a really messed up narrative around money, and this is relevant whether or not you are an employee or whether you are striking it out on your own in any capacity. It's really difficult to ask for what we want and what we need and to take it.
Mm.
So I started writing about this hot dog theory of money that I invented here because I was like, listen, if you were a vendor on the Jersey Shore and you sold hot dogs out of your little cart and a customer approached you and said, "Hey, how much for a hot dog?" You're not going to look at this guy and be like, okay, this is the moment. Okay, so, well, normally it's 275, but for you, I could cut you a deal.
Mm-hmm.
I could, extend a payment plan or, um, you know, I just, I don't know. Do you have a budget? Like we complicate the act of asking for money. So
Mm-hmm.
you don't do that when you're selling a basic hot dog. Why? Because I think we understand, that a hot dog costs what it costs for a reason. You've got the actual hot dog production, you've got the packaging, you've got the shipping, you've got the fact that the actual person selling the hot dog needs to make a profit. Otherwise, why would you have a hot dog stand?
Right.
That is there to make a profit. But when it comes to our own well-being, we feel guilty about the profit. We feel guilty about anything extra that we don't quote need. If you're an employee, you feel guilty because it feels greedy to ask for a promotion or a raise. Like, don't you have enough?
Mm.
And if you are working for yourself, you feel like you are being um, overboard and asking clients for more. But unless you're planning on starting the next Make-A-Wish Foundation,
Mhm.
profit needs to be a line item, profit for you and your life. And so I encourage people to think about whatever they're selling, like a hot dog. If it's your ideas, it's whatever. Like, hey, here's what I do. Here's how I can help. And here's how much it costs. Do you want it? Do you want my hot
Mm.
dog?
Yeah.
And yeah, and it's useful because you kind of laugh about it and you're like, geez, it really is that simple, isn't it?
Mm.
And if someone rejects you and they don't want your hot dog, it might be because they're not in a mood for a hot dog. Maybe they're full. Maybe they're vegan. Maybe they had a hot
Exactly.
dog yesterday. It's not personal. It's just a hot dog.
Yeah, and I think, in terms of depersonalizing it as well, I think that it's a little bit of a disservice that we keep hearing this message, or that I've heard many, many times this message to women about like asking for what you're worth, or like asking for your worth. Like how much you
Mhm.
charge or how much you get paid should not indicate your worth as a person. And I think it's dangerous to mix up those two things, especially like as a small business owner. I pay what I can afford to pay. I would love to pay everybody what they're worth. I think everybody's worth multi-millions, but like,
Right.
but that's not how much I can afford. So like, yeah, I think that that just brings up an interesting point when we start to get too bogged down in this idea that what we get paid is what we're worth. It just
Mhm.
makes it all very, very, very personal, which really adds a lot of emotion and complication to something that could be a lot more straightforward and like you said, more like just selling a hot dog.
Yeah, yeah, you're absolutely right. I feel like you're right. That is a problematic piece of mindset, especially when you're looking at it from the freelancer's perspective. You're like, I'm going to get paid what I'm worth, and that's not enough. Because there are also business realities to consider.
Yeah.
I think something that helped me a lot with that was my background selling advertising for a magazine because I didn't have any control over what the rates were and
Mm,
I couldn't negotiate them and the rate was the rate was the rate. So, when when I approach anyone now, I think back to how I sold that and it was really, well, what's this ad worth? I mean, okay, well, here's what it's actually worth. It's worth whatever ROI it can bring in. So for me, I was looking at our competitors for whoever I was pitching and looking at how they were doing with our product and showing somebody like, hey, so here's what it costs, but here's actually what it is worth.
right.
Like here's what it is worth. This guy literally on the next street over has just made an extra $2 million from this one ad, but he only spent $500. So that's what it's worth. And I think that doing that as an exercise was a really great way for me to look at the work objectively and not assign myself the worth,
Mm,
but it's like what's the actual product producing for someone else. You know what I mean?
right. Right. Or what could it eventually produce if not maybe right away. If it's kind of just a step.
Yeah, that's harder for industries like yours because it's not tied to money, of course. It's tied to so many other things that are so personal for people. Ooh, yeah, that's challenging.
Well, yeah, and it is interesting, and, one of the consultants that we work with who helps with, like, setting, studio pricing, she always says, like, when she talks about, like, changing anything you need to about your pricing and how to announce it and just how to, roll that out, she's always, takes care to say, like, "Never apologize." Like, you have a business to run, and you're trying to build a business that is sustainable so that it will be here in the future for your clients and for your community. So, like, you gotta do what you gotta do.
So, yes, absolutely. Business decisions separate from ego decisions, I think, are important. And understanding you are a steward of your business and you have a fiduciary responsibility to your business.
Yeah.
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 Hell
Business.
yeah. I know. I've had to really, drill that into my own head when it comes to, like, making hiring and firing decisions because it's not actually personal. Like you said, you have a responsibility to do what's best for the business, especially when a lot of people are counting on it either as a community that they go to and it creates a safe space for them and helps them with their health and wellness, or whether it's a career for the people working there. But yeah, anyway, anything to depersonalize something is always just makes it a lot easier to make clear-headed decisions.
Doesn't it?
Yeah.
Yes.
But I wanted to talk a little bit about boundaries. I feel like I just said that word very weird. Apparently, it's a very weird topic for me.
Dirty
I
word.
stutter when I say it. Boundaries. What the fuck? Like how to put parameters around what you will or won't do. I imagine this is a big one for small business owners and freelancers. And I know a lot of your, you know, readers of your blog are in those fields. But in general, I think it's a thing for women. Can we talk about boundaries?
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, right. Even your own personal boundaries with friends, with lovers, with, your landlord, whatever. It's such a relevant topic,
Mm-hmm.
especially for women because of that whole thing about, not wanting to take and not wanting to ask for what we need. And that's such a hard thing. Something that I think can be really helpful in life is this little thing called thinking. It's it's really weird how so much of us go through it because we are tasked with so many things every single day.
Mm.
We don't actually have time to sit down and consider
Yeah.
what we think about anything, really. And boundaries are one of those things. You don't think about it until all of a sudden you've got a house guest who won't get the fuck out and
Yeah.
you need to now approach the situation.
Mm-hmm.
But something that has been helpful for me, so whatever area you struggle with, especially relevant for business owners and clients, I like to think about having a contract with people or things that I'm doing, even if I don't actually send a real contract over to them. I like to pretend that if I did have a contract, it would be very much like the kind that I would create if I was having any kind of business partnership. Bear with me. If you were to start a business with another person,
Mm-hmm.
you would want to have a contract that goes very, very detailed into all of the what if scenarios of that joint venture.
Mm-hmm.
So often we don't want to think about, what could happen, the bad stuff. We don't want someone else to think that maybe we're being suspicious of them or whatever. But this is a very practical piece of business advice where it's like, okay, listen, like you have to go through all of the, what if scenarios to account for those times when later things get emotional and you don't know what to do. You can look back at this document and you can say, okay, well, here's what we agreed to do. So no matter what, this is what we're doing because this is like our referee.
Mm-hmm.
So that's a great exercise for anyone to do and really think about what are some of the things that you will and won't do if push comes to shove. If your business partner decides they want to buy you out one day just because they want to, what's your stance on it? What do you need for that to make sense for you? And so, in a very similar fashion, I like to think about boundaries the same way, where it's if I'm struggling with someone or some area in my life, I like to think about, well, if I had to have a contract with this person or this idea, what would this part of the contract look like? All the what if scenarios. And what do I need from that person in order for me to agree to do X, Y, or Z? And this sounds weird, but if you write that down, it helps you get really clear about who you are and what you want and what you need. So you know when someone's about to trample all over your boundaries, you're very clear about it and say, you know what, I don't feel comfortable with that, but here's what I would feel comfortable with.
Mm.
Does that make sense?
Yes. And I have to say that like having worked with you before, because we worked together on the Bar and Soul website and you did copy for us, and like your scope of work was so freaking clear. Like everything was just laid out so clearly. I knew exactly what to expect. I knew how we were going to communicate with each other. And I've worked with other contractors who either don't take that time to do that step. And then I'm like, this is weird. Why are they taking so long to get back to me? Like, I don't, I'm just feeling like what's going on. Or I've worked with other people who do go through the step of making the agreement at the beginning, but then they're not sticking to it. And they're just like going willy nilly. So like,
They're in
yes,
default.
exactly.
Yeah.
And that's a whole other thing. So I find it is really helpful to get clear on what your agreements are with people. And sometimes an agreement is implied. And it's like helpful to just pause and be like, you know what? It seems like you think this is our agreement, but I actually feel like this is our agreement. And, and sometimes, yeah, agreements are just unspoken. Like you probably have some sort of an agreement with your family about seeing them on the holidays, but you never like took the time to write that down. Right. But it's assumed.
Right.
So I love what you're saying about taking a minute to just think through like, well, actually, if you were putting pen to paper, what would you agree to? Now, would you like share that with someone, or would you just do that as an internal exercise for yourself so you know where you stand?
I would do it as an internal exercise because I think that's the problem with boundaries is that most of us don't know where we stand until all of a sudden the fuckery
Mhm.
happens and then we're like, "Oh, what do I do?" And then it creates this panic and this stress and this this response that is just way over and above when if you can just know clearly, well, you know, this is not acceptable for me right now with what I need in my life. So here's what I'm going to
Mm.
do. If you can agree with yourself on some of these items, I mean, it really does come in handy. Think about this is a little bit deeper, but I had a client once who worked with women who were in um, verbally and emotionally abusive relationships. And a big part of her work was, helping clients understand that what they stand
Mhm.
for, like, and what they won't do and what they will do, because so many women are just used to just going with it because they think they
Mm.
have to. So anyway, if you were a woman in that position, it'd be really interesting to know. Okay, well, if my husband comes home drunk, more than 3 times a week, here's what I'm going to do next, or whatever the case may be. Sometimes it's harder to do in practice, but it's really nice to know what you think about something and what you in your ideal scenario would
Mhm.
want.
I love that.
Like, what do you want to happen? All the stuff I've done in business, it's amazing how it served me
Mhm.
personally. It's just the best personal development tool ever,
Yeah.
right?
So speaking of personal development, which I'm a big fan of, I guess I'm curious, like, do you consider yourself a spiritual person? Does personal development sort of fall into that category for you? Like, just kind of
No,
what's your
I'm the
take?
worst.
No?
I'm the worst. I am the worst. I think because of the branding around spirituality,
Mhm.
I haven't been able to be enrolled.
Yeah. Yeah.
But I do think, so I had friends here this weekend and they were like, "You're woo inside. You just won't admit it." I'm like, "I am not." And they're like, "Yes, you are." I'm like, "I am not."
Mhm.
So, I don't know. No, I don't have any spiritual practices that I would label as spiritual. But if like reading in bed every night is a spiritual practice, then yes, got me. If like listening to the Calm app every night, I listen to the bedtime stories they read you.
Oh,
Have you ever heard of it?
no.
Girl, the Calm app.
Okay.
Calm app. I guess people use it to meditate. I don't use it for that. They have a sleep section and they have
Calm
all of these
app.
celebrities like Matthew McConaughey and other people with really great
What?
voices reading you these adult bedtime stories.
No way. What?
Yes, and I listen to it every night.
Oh
There's
my
so many
God.
different ones.
Wow.
And
Okay.
then they have funny ones too that are like the rules of tennis, like parentheses, no, seriously. And then like the ideas that puts you to sleep.
Oh my God, that's awesome.
Yeah, they have the GDPR rules and regulations. Somebody's reading those.
Oh my God. That is hilarious.
So if that's a spiritual practice, then yes, I'm in.
Mhm. Cool. So, yeah, I'm like, where do we go from spirituality?
Yeah, I'm
Um,
the worst. I'm really so bad about it. I'm not, I can't.
I understand. And I guess I'm sort of at a place where I'm exploring what it even means to me to be spiritual, and I'm jealous of people that are spiritual kind of, and then I'm like, but maybe I am spiritual in my own way, but I'm definitely non-religious. And I think for me, like for some people, spirituality is meditating, and maybe it is just for me curling up somewhere and being with my journal and pen and like actually just having time for reflection and introspection. Like maybe that's
Totally.
how it looks for me.
That
Um,
totally counts.
yeah.
I will tell you, you'd be proud of me. How did I not open the conversation this way? But I started taking bar class.
What?
I did. There's a girl down the street, and she has an amazing studio.
No way.
And I started taking privates with her because I'm gonna walk in here and have no fucking idea what I'm doing.
Yeah, it's intimidating at first, definitely, to be in a group setting and not know what you're getting yourself into.
Yes, and so I
That
love
makes
it,
sense.
and I was just gonna say that, at the end, she just does a little, little, like, yoga move there, like, put your arms in the air and, I don't know, take a deep breath, and even that makes me feel uncomfortable because 'cause I'm like, "Okay, I'm being spiritual now."
Yeah, right.
I have a weird block around it, yeah.
Okay. It's just not authentic to you, and you don't wanna be phony about it. Makes sense.
Maybe, but I do love bar. I think it's been great.
Yay.
It's been
Oh.
hysterically great. My legs have done things I've never seen them do before with this like shaking and just like uncontrollable seizure that they're having. I'm like,
Yeah.
what?
Yeah, totally. It's funny, I was actually skiing this weekend and, with a group of girls, and one of the girls kept saying how tired her legs were and how much her legs were killing her, and she's like, "Are your legs tired?" And I was like, "No, not at all, actually." And I was like,
Yeah.
I'm not trying to, like, be a jerk, but, like, you should totally go to bar, like, your legs will never be tired in skiing again because the level of endurance is off the charts.
Yes, it's been a blast, and time flies by. Like an
Yeah.
hour doesn't even feel like an hour. I'm like, what?
Yay. Oh my god, I'm so excited. That's so awesome.
Yeah, it was
Yay, I'm
it was
so happy to
between
hear that.
your influence. I mean, literally, since we did that copy project, I've been like, I gotta go to bar. I gotta try bar. Like literally since then. So between your influence and then another woman that I know who has a banging bod, and
Mhm.
I'm gonna say she's maybe in her early 50s now. She's got a banging bod. And we were talking one day because I'm like, oh, I'm like a little potato. I'm soft and squishy. And she's like, literally, she's like, that's my natural state too. And all I do is bar and just go to bar. So I was like,
Yeah.
okay,
It's really
done.
such a great sustainable workout that you can do for your whole life because it doesn't beat you up. Like, it makes you shake, it makes you tired, it builds your endurance, it works your muscles, but it, like, doesn't pound on your joints. And the thing is, like, you never master it because if you're doing every single rep perfectly, like, the teacher's just gonna give you more until you can't. I never really dread it. I don't dread it, like, so I can count on myself to stick with it because some workouts, like, I'll talk myself out of going, and I seem to be able to, like, continue to get my butt there for bar, so
Yes, girl.
that's fun.
I've been loving it. I've been loving walking over there. It's only 2 blocks away. So I'm like, why am I not doing this the whole time?
Yay, I'm so excited to hear that you're doing that.
Yay.
Do we have time for one more question?
Of course.
I wanna ask you about burnout. It is a topic that comes up. I feel like it can be kind of a little bit of a buzzword right now. Like, to me, when I think of burnout, it's more like it's like extinguishing like a cigarette in an ashtray. Like, burnout is like you're done. It's over. Other people are starting I'm starting to hear it used more in terms of like, "Oh, you're experiencing some burnout. Just go like plug yourself back into like the charging station for a little while and you'll be like back at it." But, like, I'd be curious to hear your take on burnout, and, is burnout a symptom of just your workload? Is it something more than that? And, like, how do you define it?
Well, I think we have incredibly unrealistic expectations of ourselves.
Mm,
And one of the things I started doing was tracking every hour of my time. I use this little time tracker, and no matter what I'm doing, I set the timer. Sounds annoying, but I'm so in the habit of doing this for years now
mhm.
that I do it all the time with my work stuff. I'm not like, okay, time to sweep the floor, start the timer, but
Okay.
with work stuff I do. And what that has revealed to me is really how long it takes me to actually do any one thing. For
Mm,
example, it takes me like 2 to 3 hours to write and publish a blog post in full.
mhm.
That's insane. If I had to guess, if I was just like, yeah, guessing, I'd be like, oh, yeah, I could probably bang one out in like 45 minutes. No, that's not
Not the
actually the
case.
case. And so, what that has helped me do is have more realistic expectations about, how long things take me so I can not overwhelm myself and give myself way too much to do and then be in this perpetual state of anxiety because of these damn to-do lists that we all have now. So for me, burnout, it's about the anxiety piece, I think. We all are doing so much every day, but I think it's the anxiety of realizing that that damn to-do list is never done, and it's not a closed loop. It's never ever over. You never have any sense of peace, of quiet in mind. And it's like we have to set boundaries around our days and, again, what we will and won't do and when we're stopping, because
Mm,
otherwise it's just this open, like, low level anxiety that I think eventually becomes a high level anxiety. And I think that's when you start to feel this feeling of burnout.
mm. When you're always on, it's like an energy leak at all times where you're like, should I be doing something right now? Like, am I supposed to be doing something? Or like, I could get a couple more emails done, or like, I'll just get one more thing on my to-do list.
Yes, that you just described that beautifully. That the energy leak of
Mm,
feeling like, you're always on.
mm,
Yes, I've been in scenarios over the years where I've not managed this the best way, and I remember being incredibly jealous of people who just went back and forth to the office in that respect, because it's like, wow, 5 o'clock, you really don't have to think about work anymore. You're done.
right.
You're just done. And I don't think that, I think that there's pluses and minuses with everything, but that is one thing that I tried very hard to then incorporate some sense of done into my own life. What does done look like? And sometimes that really has to be about shipping.
Mm,
You hear Seth Godin talk a lot about shipping and deciding in advance when is something done, because really you could just keep working on it forever.
yeah.
We're all a
Just
bunch of
like
perfectionists.
good enough and moving on.
Hmm.
Do
When
you
is
have
done?
certain ways that you signal to yourself that you're done? And like, do you have certain things that you do to like just relax and not be on?
Yeah, I mean, well, with the timer thing is useful because not only do I time myself, but now I'm able to give myself a time limit where it's like, all right, I got 2 hours of work on this and then it's done. I'm not going to do any more. Um,
Mm,
or, I'm going to do 3 revisions on this and then I'm going to be done. Because literally, I mean, as a writer who just keeps
yeah.
editing over, you can edit for the rest of your life a single paragraph.
Yes. Mhm. You really can.
You really can. You're never really going to be like 100% happy with it. So I think,
No.
no, the timer is really useful for me, and setting a certain, like, boundary around revisions, for the example, is really useful for me. But at the end of the day, I do a little ritual. Oh my God, I just used the word ritual. Maybe I am spiritual. The
The truth comes out.
truth comes out. When I'm in Costa Rica, I have this really great hand cream, and this sounds ridiculous, but when I need to be done off the computer, I put this luxurious, delicious smelling hand cream on. Number one, it signals to me like that smell signals off. But number two, I have really big OCD around greasy keyboards.
Okay.
So I will not touch the keyboard if my hands are greased up and disgusting. That sounds so ridiculous that we have to do this to ourselves, but that's what it is. I have to discipline myself.
Yeah.
Ambition is great. We all have it, but the I mean the flip side of ambition is knowing when to stop being ambitious.
Yes.
Do you have any that tell you to stop?
So I have a thing that I use on so like my email is through G Suite. So there's a Google Chrome plugin called Boomerang, and it has this feature called Inbox Pause. And you can pause your inbox and you can have it have an autoresponder or not. And I frequently will use it during the day so I can actually batch my emails, because we like the idea of batching our emails, but a lot of times you can't just close out of your email because you need to be sending something or whatever. So when your inbox is paused, new stuff doesn't come into your inbox. It goes into like another folder off to the side and gets corralled there until you're ready to unpause it, which is nice. So that's like just a good productivity thing for in my working day. But when I want to be done for the night, a lot of times I will pause my inbox because I do have my email on my phone. And if I'm sitting around, at Walgreens, like waiting for a prescription or something, like I'll be like, oh, what the hell? I'll check my email. But or lying in bed and it's like, oh, I'll just peek one more time. And I always say that's like Russian roulette, because if there's that one email that pisses me off and like gets my wheels turning, and now I'm not going to be able
Mhm.
to sleep tonight, and like in a pissy mood with my family and whatever. So I use Inbox Pause, and that's really, really huge. And I actually, this woman, Misty Lown, who I know, she talks about putting her phone in the car when she's trying to spend time with her family at night so that she won't even be tempted to like check her messages or get distracted, which I think is powerful. But
Wow.
also for me, sometimes what freaks me out is that when I'm not working, when I'm not checking and I'm not plugged in, I'm a little bit like not sure what to do with myself. So I find I have to schedule my downtime. Like I have to book things I'm going to do, like taking a class, or even if it's just an hour of like family time and just being present, I will put stuff in my calendar because I can get anxiety from not having anything planned.
Yeah. Yeah. That's interesting, right? Because it's like, okay, well, now it's time to relax. But like, what do I do to relax?
What
And
does that even mean? Like,
yeah, and
yeah.
it's true. I hate that. I try so hard when I get antsy, like literally, if I just sit down to watch a movie, there comes this overwhelming urge to pick up the phone and
Mhm.
also do this other thing at the same time.
Right?
And I'm
Yes.
like, why the fuck can't I just sit there and watch a movie like any normal person?
Right.
So I have to try really hard. And I tell myself, do not pick it up. Don't do it. Nope.
Right.
No, you're watching a movie right now. Be happy with your like cup of tea or your glass of wine and just watch this movie.
Yeah.
God, we're horrible. What is wrong with the world? This is what's wrong with
The
the world.
struggle is real. It's interesting. One more thing. I said that was the last question, but you've said before that there's no such thing as work-life separation. And I feel like that's a little bit what we're getting at here.
Yeah, I think in that context that what I try to mean is like, listen, if your work, whatever you're doing for 10 hours a day, that is your life.
That is your life.
Like
Yeah.
that's the definition of life. Like you're
Mhm.
spending the majority of your hours doing this thing. Like that's you're awake. That's your life. That is it.
Yeah.
So it's kind of like, okay, well, how can you optimize that then to be a life you actually enjoy living and stop thinking about, well, what do I get to do in those 2 hours I get in the evenings after I've battled rush hour and then I fed
Mhm.
everybody and then put everyone to bed and then I got 2 hours to myself.
Mhm.
I hate to feel like that's life. Like that's your life, 2 hours a day.
Right.
So I think it's important. I am team passion for that reason. There are other people who will argue with me and say that work is just a means to an end to be able to fund the rest of your life. But I disagree because unless you're spending like 3 hours a day at work every day and that's it, I mean, the rest of you're spending your life at work. So you better damn well like
Absolutely.
it.
Yeah, absolutely. And again, like finding your passions, it's about getting out there, right? Like talking to new people, saying new things, trying new things, having experiences, messing up, like getting your hands dirty. And that is kind of what I'm getting at too with like scheduling my downtime. Like I do book a lot of classes. I take circus classes and dance classes and freaking piano classes and book get-togethers with friends and just yeah, I have to like kind of keep myself busy so that I can stay inspired and like stay really passionate and not be a little, wad of anxiety and troubles just kind of fumbling through
Yeah,
life.
yeah, yeah. I love all the classes. That's great. See, you are going outside. That's
Yep,
it. That's exactly what I'm talking about.
it is
Classes are a
true.
great way to just try something new that you haven't tried to see if you like it or not.
Yeah, and just talking to people, like we can obsessively try to figure something out on our own, but God, is it faster to get just bounce some ideas off of somebody and just let people in, let them contribute and I don't know, see what you find out. You might have the answer right there.
Yes, and wasn't that how you actually started? I mean, like your entire career, you went to a bar class, am I right? And you liked it. And
Right.
now look at you. That led to something completely different you could have never planned.
No, even when I started teaching, I had no idea this was gonna be my career.
Right.
Yeah.
Exactly. So go outside, everybody. Take a class. Take 7.
So everybody should go out and get your book, and they should, of course, read your blog, The Middle Finger Project. And how else would you like everybody to just keep in touch with you?
No, that's it. I mean, the blog, the Middle Finger Project, the website itself, we are tricking that bad boy out. Obviously, you can buy the book there wherever you are in the world, but you can also do fun stuff. We've got a new thing coming called the Quit Your Job Store. Which
Amazing.
I'm so excited. I'm picturing, obviously this is a digital thing where you can go for resources and whatever, even something as simple as writing a resignation letter. But I'm picturing doing some pop-ups in real life too somewhere and just like the Quit Your
Oh,
Job Store, everybody. It's gonna be so funny.
oh my God.
We've got like, a fun quiz, like should you quit your job and pursue something else? And then of course other things for people who have taken the step and made the
Mhm.
decision to sell a talent that they have. We've got 25 days to 100K. kind of this is our fun boot camp for getting you the freelance skills that you need to figure that out. So yeah, head to the website. It's the best place of all the places.
Awesome. Yes, your blog is so entertaining and so fun to read. Even if you're not a freelancer or, self-employed at this time, I think everybody would enjoy your stuff and
Thank
definitely your
you.
book. And thank you so much for joining me today. I'm so glad we did this. It was so good to catch up with you.
Yes, thank you for having me. And thanks to everyone who made it to the end.
Woo! The true fans. Thank you all.
Thanks so freaking much.
I'm Andrea Isabel Lucas. Thanks for listening to the Own It All podcast, made with love and gratitude from Boston. If you liked what you heard, subscribe, rate, and review on your app. Then, connect with me on social media for more helpful tips and techniques. I'd love to talk with you there. Or maybe I can motivate your team at a conference, retreat, or special event. I'll be back next Wednesday with a new episode. See you then.